Hi, welcome. If you can hear my voice and see the PowerPoint presentation, then please type yes in the chat box just under the presentation. Just let us know. Obviously, if you can see the screen and can't hear me, please type no. Sianed, Clive, that marvellous. Who else are we waiting for? Lindsay. Lindsay, can you hear me? Just give it a couple more seconds just to get settled in and see if anyone else is going to join as well. Oh, Lindsay's typing. Marvellous. Thank you so much, Lindsay. So, hi, welcome. My name is Hannah, and a little bit of housekeeping before we go forward. You've all just used the comments box to communicate with me. If you can keep using that throughout the session to ask questions or answer questions that we ask or share any comments, that would be fantastic. Feel free to tweet your questions or your comments to us at Hannah DCW, and please watch all the videos and take part in all the activities going forward. So, today's very quick session is on digital volunteering. So my name is Hannah France and I am the South East Wales trainer for Digital Communities Wales. And with us as well is my manager, Delith Rees, based in our Swansea office, and she'll be helping to monitor and moderate the comments box. So if I miss anything you say or ask, Delith will pick it up, and she'll also share a few links and information topics with you throughout the session as we go through as well. So the aim of today's session is to learn some general tips for helping people to get online. Think about the role of a volunteer and what volunteers really do and how we can help volunteers make the most of their time and make the most of what they're trying to do, and learn where we can get more information and support as well. So can I ask you guys, we've got a few more people booked on, so hopefully they'll join us in a couple more minutes. But are all of you members of staff or are some of you volunteers? Just to get an idea of what angle everyone's coming from. You can just type in if you're a staff member or a volunteer. Sianed, your staff. I feel awkward when I go quiet, but at the same time, I don't want to just sing to take off the dead air. Staff from Lindsay, fabulous. And staff up. Hello, Annie. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Martha. So, today's session, as we go forward, maybe think about this as something that you can take to the volunteers you might work with or the volunteering coordinators you might work with, and think about how we can go forward to make sure that we make the most of the volunteers that we do have to help as many people as we can to get online. So the first thing we need to do, though, is before we think about helping people get online, we do need to have some awareness of the barriers that people are facing. Digital is relatively quite new for a lot of people, and for very many of them, digital is now a necessity. Even if they don't want it, they kind of have to do it. So thinking about the people that you all work with, the client groups that you're working with, what do you think some of the barriers are for those people to get online? If you can just write in the comments box some of the ideas, but what is stopping your end client going online? So Sianed, too scared. Yep, a lot of people are worried about what if they post something, or what if people hack them, or they lose anything. No equipment. Yeah. Internet access, that's correct. If you don't have the equipment, if you don't have the internet access, whether that's because you can't afford it or there is no coverage in your area, they're massive barriers that people have to try and overcome as well. Any more ideas? Cost, yeah. A lack of, excellent, Clive, a lack of knowledge. A lot of people don't know what they can do online, don't know how to get online, don't know why they should want to go online. It's just something that's over there, and it's not something that people think always has to apply to them. So the barriers can be very far-reaching. So this is just a quick idea of what some of the barriers can be. So fear of putting something out there that they cannot get back from Lindsay. Yeah, that's a big fear. There's if you look at the news, a lot of the things about going online and social media is quite negative. So a lot of people can be quite fearful of the topic because they've not had a lot of experience with it, just what they've read. And things can go wrong, and they do. And a big thing about helping people get online is to help them avoid doing that by teaching them safety elements as well. So some of the barriers can include things like fear, mistrust, misunderstanding. There could be a complete technophobe, but they don't even like using DVD players. That's my grandmother. Heard scare stories of fraud, security crashes with big. Oh, hello, Nigel. Welcome. Yeah, security crashes with big companies. People are reading that Sony's being hacked and Tesco's have been hacked and Yahoo have been hacked. And without understanding what it means and what actually happens, that's a big scare. That's something that can make people feel very vulnerable by going online. Other barriers can be things like a lack of interest. So a misconception of what they can do online. They're perfectly happy with the way they're doing things. There's no need for them to get into this nonsense of going online. They're quite happy going down to the council in person. Things like costs, so they could be on a low income. It just might not be a priority spend for them. And even things like a bad previous experience. If they've been online in the late 90s, early thousands, and something negative had happened, it's going to put them off ever going online again or doing certain activities again. So a big part of volunteering and helping people get online, whether that's in a volunteer capacity or a staff capacity, is to understand those barriers. Because without knowing the specific barrier for each of our clients, we can't help them overcome it very well. It's not enough to have 10 people and run the same session with those 10 people. Some of them might need an extra 5 minutes on where to find low cost equipment. Some people might need an extra 10 minutes to show them how to put their privacy settings on the websites you're showing them. So it's about being as adaptive as we can. So just to touch on this really quickly, what can you expect as a volunteer, or what should we as staff provide for our volunteers if we're hoping that they'll help people get online? Well, I know most of the companies, housing associations, volunteer associations, councils, they'll have lots of policies and procedures in place for volunteers as part of the induction. So that's the first one, obviously, is to run through these policies and make sure your volunteers are happy and up to date with everything. Something that's always worth making sure people are aware of and making sure that you have in place is the social media policy as well. A lot of the time, volunteers, obviously, they're building fantastic relationships with their clients. They're really helping them. They're seeing great work being done. But it's important that we explain that boundary to them. So social media policies are very important for volunteers. I know on my personal social media, I don't use my full name. My name, Hannah France, is not on my social media profile, so I don't want to be found. So for some volunteers, it might be having that conversation with them as well, that what they put on Facebook can potentially be seen by any clients as well. It's also really important that we signpost them to who can help them if they have any challenges in the role that they're doing online. Now, that can be anything from they're having difficulties with a client and they want a little bit of advice on how to help them navigate and get online. It might simply be that they've seen something incredibly upsetting with the client and they want to report it officially. So it's giving them those channels to have that reporting system. Excellent, Nigel. Nigel has 2 accounts, one for work and one for personal life. It's a very standard thing amongst staff now to do. And it's bringing that awareness to the volunteers as well, especially if they're volunteering with you for a long time or they've given you lots of their hours. It's also really important because this is something we found within Digital Communities Wales. We've heard many stories of this. It's important that you make it very clear to your volunteers, or that your volunteers know not to use their personal equipment at any point, not to let clients use it, not to use it to demonstrate on or anything like that. Because you don't know who the client is and you open yourself up then to things going wrong or clients finding out more things about you than you're willing. And I have been told by a colleague of mine, somebody lent a volunteer lent a client a piece of their equipment because they couldn't afford it themselves, and the client never came back to the session. So unfortunately, this can happen, but it's something that volunteers should expect. They should be able to have access to the appropriate kit to use and understand what is and is not appropriate within their role, much in the same way as we do as members of staff. It's also really important that we talk about the organisational standards for a volunteer as well. Digital brings this whole new relationship, in that social media makes it so much easier for the lines to get quite blurry, and it's just having those conversations of what is and is not appropriate. An excellent example of this is there's a housing association in Southeast Wales. They've got tens, maybe even 100 volunteers who do their digital inclusion activities for them. And that organisation's created a closed Facebook group just for their volunteers. So the volunteers can support each other, but there's no clients in that group. It's just for the volunteers who speak to the staff. So there's lots of different ways you can do this, but it's just making it clear to your volunteers what is and is not acceptable and something that we can do. So you're losing sound. My apologies, not sure what's happening there. If it goes again, just button mash your keyboard and I'll stop and I'll do a very quick sound check and make sure it's coming back on. So we're just going to watch a quick video now. This is a video of a volunteer in Caerphilly Libraries just talking about their experience, which is a nice little example of what volunteering can do.
Taught in libraries, job centres and sheltered housing complexes. My role is to help people who are digitally excluded, who's never touched a computer in their life, to reap the benefits of being online. The first step is explaining how to use the mouse and the keyboard and then how to access the internet. And it's just step by step, and we go at their pace instead of the pace we expect them to learn. Before I started volunteering, I had really low self-esteem, and if anybody told me 2 years ago that I'd be teaching 5 or 6 people, I think they was having a laugh. It's definitely worth it to see the smiles on people's faces when they come out today, knowing that they've learned something new. Now I love it, and I do it every day if I could.
Just a quick video there, just to show what it can be like for our volunteers and what they can get out of it. So we're going to jump forward now and jump straight into some of our oh, sorry, Lindsay, you couldn't hear the video. We'll include the link to all videos. We'll include a copy of the presentation. Everything will go out to you after the session, so you can look through it in your own time as well. So very sorry about that. Did anyone else have problems with the sound on the video? No problems. Clive? Nigel was okay. So some of you have had some difficulties. As I say, everything will go out at the end of the session, so you can look at everything in your own time as well and keep it for your own records. So we're going to go on now and look at some of the hints and tips for helping people get online. Again, these are tips that were written with the idea that volunteers can take forward and give them a go and see if it makes their experience more positive. But again, staff more than welcome to indulge in these tips, and do share them as well. Share them along. So our first tip, and possibly our most important one, is to make it fun. Whatever your interests, there's going to be a website, there's going to be a video, there's going to be a forum, there's going to be a shop, there's going to be something online to help people indulge their interests. And as adult learners, we learn a lot quicker if we actually care about what we're learning and if we enjoy what we're learning about. So if you've got clients who are there because they have to be, because the benefit system has made it essential, or they have to because a service is being rolled back and they have to learn the skill to access the service, it can be quite challenging for them to learn because they might not actually want to. But if you can talk to your clients and get to know them and find out about what they're interested in and what they feel passionate about, it's very easy to link it into the learning experience. So if you're having a chat with somebody and they're a massive, massive, massive rugby fan, it's really easy to take a 30-second break and say, have you seen this? And show them the website or show them a YouTube video. And that can get people excited to learn and make them want to learn more in their own time. And that's quite important. If we can make people want to learn in their own time, that's half the battle. So, Nigel, you use hobbies and interests. Exactly right, Nigel. If we can link to hobbies and interests, it's a wonderful learning curve. It's a lot quicker. It's a lot more enjoyable. Things like job seeking online are incredibly essential, incredibly useful, and have brilliant payback for those who can do it. But not many people would call them fun. So if you can spend just a couple of minutes learning what your clients like and find something else for them as well, find something that they want to go online to do. I learned to go on the internet in the 90s. I had AOL. Sound of Freedom was that dial-up tone. And I loved the chat forums on there. That's the reason I went online. It's the reason I kept learning, was I kept finding things I enjoyed. And if we can give that to our clients, we can have a really good feedback then. So yeah, Nigel, using BBC Sport to learn how to navigate the website because it's something they enjoy, and then applying what they've learned to the learning topic of Universal Job Match. It can be a lot quicker. So for volunteers, for encouraging and helping our volunteers help people get online, encourage them to have a bit of fun with it. Don't let them think that they have to only do one or two things. They can be quite flexible. It does pay a lot better as well. So moving quickly on to our second tip. Now, this is really important. Encourage your learner to use the technology ASAP. The first things we tend to hear is then, I'll break it. I'm scared of pressing the wrong button. I'll make a mistake. There's a lot of fear around using technology, but the only way to get over that fear is to actually use it. We run training, face-to-face training, and we run a 2-day training session that's accredited, and as part of the assessment they have to do role plays and one-to-one support. The first thing I'll do is take the iPad from the volunteer and put it in the hands of the learner, because it's the only way the learner is going to get over the fear is if they hold the technology and use the technology themselves. The challenge for your volunteers can be that they feel it's quicker and that they don't want the clients to feel upset or get stressed. And unfortunately, that might be a part of the learning curve for them, is to feel slightly uncomfortable until they get the skills. I remember not long after I started this job, one of the ladies I trained got in touch with me. She was very excited because she had her first her first volunteering session the next day. I said, let me know how it goes. And she got in touch with me. That was so effing hard. I thought, oh God, what's happened? What's gone wrong? And she said it was so hard not to press the buttons. It was so hard for her to let the clients do it at that much slower pace, because she knew she could do it in a couple of minutes, do everything the client needed. But she was very good, and she held back and she let the client go at that very slow pace and learn it for themselves, because that's so important. So what we don't want to happen is that the volunteers we have become personal assistants to our clients. They're not here to do things for our clients, and that's really important to get across to our volunteers. Is they're there to help people develop the skills, not to do it for them, no matter how uncomfortable it can make people. And people can learn really, really quickly as well once they start touching, once they start using the technology. It works really well. Nigel, I use the acting dull method for learning. I do that as well, Nigel. I go, what's that? Why do we do that? But it works. It works. It really does. So encourage your learners to use the technology as soon as possible. And it ties in nicely to our third tip, which is about patience. Be patient. We can do a lot of the online activities now in minutes. We can log into Facebook and find that YouTube video we want and then download it and then upload. We can do everything in a couple of minutes because we've done them repeatedly over the past couple of years. It's only through practice that people can become quick. So it's really important that for volunteers, they remember what might take them 5 minutes, could take the full hour, but next time their clients do it, it'll only take them half an hour, and next time only 15 minutes. So we need to be patient, we need to be calm, because we don't want to rush our clients because they can feel like they're in the way, or that they're being stupid, or that they're being ridiculous, and then they're not. They're learning something brand new, they're learning something quite challenging, and there's nothing worse than having somebody tapping their fingers and checking their clock because this could have been done by now. That's really off-putting. So we need to encourage our volunteers to be very patient. It's a massive, massive part of helping people get online, is being able to sit for a couple of minutes while people try and put things together as they're going through. Nigel, let the learners lead the learning. If they want to take a full hour to do to do a certain task, that's what it takes. Resist the urge to say, I'll show you one more time and do it for them. It doesn't really help our learners do anything. because when you actually look at a web page, I've got YouTube up here. When you look at a web page, it's very, very busy. It's a lot of information that people have to try and navigate and take in. You've got the search bar at the top, you've got a big ad in the middle, you've got recommended videos down the bottom, you've got a dashboard control panel sort of thing to your far left, plus buttons in the very, very, very top right. That's a lot for people to have to try and take in and work out what they all do. Just take 30 seconds, or not even that, 10 seconds. How many links, clickable buttons do you think is on this page of YouTube? How many links do you think there are? Have a quick think. How many buttons can you press and end up on a different page? $20 from Nigel. $40 to $50 from Carl. Della, if you're going to have a go. 76 from Della. Yeah, there's about when I had my very quick count, Della counted them. She probably did. When I had my very quick count, there's about 41 active links on this page, 41 things you can click and end up on a different page for. Now, I don't see those anymore. I just go straight to the search bar and the search button. They're the only two things my eyes actually look at. But for our clients, they're taking in everything. So that patience and letting them lead the learning is so important because they're seeing things for the first time. Tip number 4, and this is really important for staff and volunteers, is it's okay not to know. It is absolutely fine if you don't know the answer to the client's question. What you do is you find out together and you use that as a learning curve for both of you. I get asked all sorts of questions in my role and I don't know the answers sometimes, and I don't take that as a failure on my part, or I don't see it as a pressure on my part. It's simply a good question. Let's find out the answer. And it's a wonderful thing for me as well. And what I'll tend to do is with the whole group, go to Google, type in the question, then I'll look through the search results. And as I'm doing it, I'll say, right, this link goes to PC World, and I trust PC World, and then I'll look and I'll find the answer. But by doing that, you're making it okay not to know, which is very, very important if people are learning a skill. And you're also showing them how to find out information and how to be critical about the information we find. Nigel, yeah, exactly right, Nigel. Just be honest, say, I don't know, that's a fantastic question, let's go find out. And use that as a learning curve for teaching, finding information, critical assessment of that information. And it also can make clients feel really good that they've asked a question you don't know. I've had that quite a few times. People ask me questions, I go, I don't know, and then they start feeling really smug. And it's quite nice. It's really nice. They start going like a peacock. But there's no such thing as a stupid question. And it's about encouraging that. And between volunteers and clients, that's a wonderful thing because your volunteers are continuously developing and improving and learning new skills, and your clients are feeling like they have good ideas, and it's fine for them to be learning this. It's fine for them to be trying out these new skills and different things. Everybody is constantly learning all the time. We just don't think about it as much. And Google does have an answer for everything. So, this is how to make pancakes, and Google itself has told me from Good Food. So, and not only that, you've got, as well as the website results, you've got the video tab, shopping tab, images, news. So if your volunteers find that their clients tends to like videos more than they like reading a web article, it's a wonderful way of figuring out how to teach that learner something in the future. So if they find videos which really, really well, next time they ask something, go straight to YouTube, because maybe that person doesn't like reading so much, or the literacy levels might be not as high as we like to assume about people. So it's a really good way of helping be adaptive as well as finding out the questions as well, finding out the answers to the questions as well. So with our volunteers, we need to encourage them that they don't have to know everything. They really don't. That's something I get quite a lot of when I'm training, is people feel under pressure because they don't rate their skills as very high, and that's absolutely fine. As long as they have the confidence to find out, that's all we ever need. The confidence to find out is all people need to help people get online. Top tip number 5 is to signpost. Now, this might not be something that we think about too often, but ultimately we want clients to come to us, be with us for a period of time, and move them on. Whether that's moving them on to something better because they've learned everything, or whether that's moving them on to something more specific or maybe more adaptable to them and their specific needs. So we should be involving, including and informing our volunteers about what other agencies are in the area, what other organisations are out there, that if they're working with a client and they think actually you would really, really benefit from a 6-week course in a structured environment than coming here and hoping I'm free for 15 minutes, then we need to be encouraging our volunteers to identify and report back to ourselves that so and so would really benefit from this, and then signposting them on as well. Very often something we found is volunteers form amazing relationships with the clients. They really build fantastic positive relationships with them, and that's wonderful. But ultimately it is about moving people on, whether that's onto the next great thing or onto something that's more suitable. We don't tend to want people coming back for very long periods of time, because once they've learned everything we can tell them, we want that space to open up for somebody else. So it's really important that we do encourage our volunteers to signpost and move on and refer to ourselves as staff and make the suggestion, because we want people to be moving forward constantly. We don't want people to still be coming back after a year, after 18 months, because that space needs to open up now for somebody else. So involving our volunteers in this information means that as their clients getting more confident and getting more comfortable, they can start saying, "Oh, do you know the library does drop-in sessions for job seekers? Oh no, they're really good. Yeah, go and they can start encouraging them then to go on to the next thing as well." And it all works as part of the moving on process. So signposting is really important for our volunteers to be aware of. And tip number 6, and this is for absolutely everybody, staff, volunteers, parents, grandparents, social workers, youth work, everybody, discuss safety. Something we really need to make sure that our volunteers are doing and that we're helping our volunteers to do is discuss online safety as a part of every topic that they're helping with, because we need to encourage that as almost second nature, really. So if the volunteers are doing a lot of things around job seeking, we need to encourage them to promote safe passwords. We need to encourage them to promote critical thinking, and that no job is going to ask for your national insurance number in a CV. That's a bit too much information to be given out at that level. We need to discuss the shopping elements as well. So whatever topics you're looking at, it can be really great if volunteers are quite aware of the safety topics that come under that, and they can bring that up. So if they're helping somebody create an email as the first thing they've ever done, it's a brilliant time to bring up the importance of strong passwords, and not just say, oh, you need to have a password, it needs to be 8 characters, 1 number and 1 uppercase letter, but have that conversation and help people realize what safe passwords are, what online safety is, and how they can make themselves safe. This is how we have confident clients at the end of our sessions who feel like they're in control, is if we start to explicitly say these safety elements. And ultimately, our clients, they are learning a skill, and that is a massive, massive challenge. Learning anything as an adult can always be a frustrating occurrence. It can be very difficult for adults to learn something. So all these things come together, and it is about acknowledging that it's not easy. It's not a simple matter of picking up a mouse and click, click, click. It is actually a big process for our clients, and we need to encourage our volunteers to have that awareness as well, and also be confident in their own skills. Again, as I've trained, a lot of people I train rate their skills quite poor, but actually they're very good. They're well above average, but they don't have the self-confidence. They don't have the self-awareness of what they're able to do. It's about building our volunteers up as well so that they feel confident as they're going forward. So as a very, very quick summing up, this is what volunteers should do and what they don't do. Ultimately, every organisation is going to be slightly different. As a really good overview, volunteers are here to signpost, here to demonstrate, support, encourage, and they can ask for help and support for themselves and for the clients that they're working with. And they should also maintain the appropriate boundaries. It is really, really important that we do discuss those boundaries with them. Again, social media makes it so much easier to find out information about a lot of people, and anybody who comes to volunteer, or if you are volunteering, you should treat your social media exactly the same as if you were a member of staff. And also just remember that no matter how good your relationships with clients can become, it's so important that you do maintain those professional boundaries, because that means you're protected as well. Another example a colleague gave me was a volunteer was helping a client set up an email account and was watching the screen as they were putting everything in it, including the password. So when something went wrong with the email, the client thought the volunteer had done it because the volunteer knew that person's password and email address. Now the volunteer had done absolutely nothing, but because that little bit of oversight had happened, because they'd left themselves open to that by knowing the client's password, it meant that that could happen. Whereas if we encourage volunteers to maintain an appropriate boundary, it does mean that we can protect our volunteers a lot stronger as well. And what volunteers are not here to do, what they should not do, is they should not do it for the clients. They're not here to see 20 people in 1 hour because they're very quick at what they do. But that shouldn't be what we use volunteers for. Shouldn't what you do as a volunteer. They shouldn't give out personal information. You shouldn't keep anybody's personal information either, no matter how close you are, no matter how much easier it is. Again, I have met somebody who would keep username password combinations in a little black book because it was easier for the clients because they were always forgetting. But that's just not something we should do. We shouldn't keep any worries to ourselves either. A lot of people can be in difficult situations at the minute, and that can get on top of us. So sometimes it is just worth checking in with volunteers, and volunteers, it's worth checking in with your support workers and just saying what's going on and saying that if any worries or concerns are happening. And it's also quite important that within the context of what we're doing, that volunteers, that they don't give that professional advice. Obviously, that completely depends on the organisation they're volunteering for, the training that they've received, on their professional backgrounds. But volunteers in general should not give professional advice. Now, professional advice can be things like financial advice, benefit advice, legal advice. They're things that you should say that's a good question, or that's not a great situation to be in, and then talk to the support worker who might be able to refer and get somebody in who can answer that question. Because we don't know the answers unless we work in that field. Within the Wales Cooperative Centre, we have a financial inclusion team. Any questions I get about digital and financial, I have to think, is this more digital or more financial? And if it's more financial, I refer it to our FI team, and then they'll tell me the answer and I'll pass it on. But it is about making sure volunteers are aware that even if they're going through the same situation themselves, they should be encouraging people to go to a member of staff that works within that field and has the most up-to-date situation. So again, we don't want is somebody coming in and saying, oh, well, so-and-so told me if I did this. We don't want that to happen. We want our volunteers to be safe. We want our clients to be safe. And it can just be about maintaining these boundaries and awarenesses. And it's also important that our volunteers keep learning, that they keep learning. The image to the left, this one here, is the BBC homepage in the year 2001, and the image on the right is the BBC homepage yesterday, I believe. So we can see that in these 15 years, technology has changed so much, web pages have changed so much, the way that we engage online has changed, everything is changing, and it's happening very, very quickly. So something that we do need to invest in is to encourage our volunteers to keep on learning. and to keep challenging themselves as well, because things are always going to change, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine that things change. It's just about being aware of it. If somebody's been with you for 6 months, or if you have been volunteering for 6 months, maybe think about what can I do to check my skills, or do something a bit different, or find something out. There's a fantastic open source provision called Future Learn. They do all sorts of online webinars and all sorts of different topics, and they're great for people who just want to dip their toe into a new topic, or learn about different things completely free. We'll include the link in your research and in your resource pack at the end of the session. But just being able to signpost your learners, your volunteers, these kind of things can help them improve their learning, keep developing their skills, um, and increase their confidence as well. Because I think for volunteers that is so important, that they feel confident and appreciated. And a big way of showing that is by investing time learning and training with them. So to sum up, we would definitely recommend learning about your end client. If you're a volunteer working with somebody, if you're a member of staff looking to help volunteers work with clients, encourage them to learn about what they like, what they don't like, any worries, any barriers, because that will help them be far more engaging and far more effective than just going in with a set presentation that everybody has. We should encourage everybody to make it fun. The internet's a great place. It's got some fantastic funny cat videos on there. One day I'll just do a webinar presentation just on funny cats because I want to, but Deli won't let me. But genuinely, just make it fun. Make it whatever they're interested in, whatever they find funny. Try and bring it up because it makes learning so much better. And it's also really important to know what your role as a volunteer involves, or that if you're a member of staff, that you make it very clear to your volunteers what the role involves. And check back in with them, obviously, as you do frequently, to make sure that nothing's changing. So as the technology is changing as well, you might need to be more adaptive as we go through. So thank you for listening. Delith and I will be around for the next 10-15 minutes to answer questions. I'll turn my audio off and all the Q&A will be run in the chat box. I would like to say more about what we're doing at the minute. So we just received word that we do have funding for years 3 and 4, which is fantastic. So if you're a member of staff and you want to talk about how you can use your volunteers, or how you can help train your volunteers, etc., do get in touch. We have coordinators who operate at a more strategic level, and they've seen all sorts of methods for engaging volunteers and using volunteers. And they've got some fantastic examples of best practice that you might be interested in learning about and seeing if you can adapt and use it in your own organisation. And we also do offer the face-to-face training throughout the whole of Wales as well. We have a range of training options from half day to 1 day to the specific topics and bespoke. So do get in touch if it's something that you'd like to talk about in more detail. This has been sort of an introductory, general introduction to volunteering, digital volunteering. But if you want to know more, if you want to talk about how you can maybe do things differently, or see if you can do things differently, then please do get in touch. We'll be glad to pass your details on to the relevant person and see if we can help you and your volunteers make the most of the opportunities that they have, and really try and help people get online, because it is so important for them. So thank you very, very much. My name is Hannah France. A resource pack will be sent out for you after the session, containing the slides, the videos, and a few other bits and pieces. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this quick introduction. There's also a very quick poll just as we're going into the next 2 years, which is very exciting. Just anything you'd like to see, any topics you'd like to see. We're currently exploring a lot of online learning options. So any ideas you have, any topics, or the way you like things to be done, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you very much. I will now turn my audio off. And if you do have any questions, please ask them. And hopefully I will see you all again very, very soon. So thank you very much for listening.